Action Research Project by Maribel Brisita. In my action research, this is my preliminary problem. My research question to begin with was, what happens when I reinforce phonics through whole class reading instruction? In my class, I had noticed that many of my students were struggling when decoding words in English and that we were not focusing enough on phonics instruction. My team had also noticed that last year's first grade classes were more advanced in reading than this year's. I really wanted to get an understanding of why my students and the other first grade students might not be performing as the previous years were and what it was that we needed to focus more on. To begin my action research project, I started with a survey that I conducted to my students. This was my quantitative needs assessment. I found out that my students were very confident in reading and that they believe that they are doing well. Many of my students commented after the survey that reading in English is easier than when they first started first grade. Sounding out words in English is easy, and I am a strong English reader were the two that had strongly disagree. I think these showed me that not all of my students were fully confident in reading, but they are confident in reading as a whole class, but might not feel confident doing it independently. The survey helped me measure the self-efficacy of my students when it comes to reading and sounding out words. Here is part of my survey. So there were five questions that I asked on my survey, and one of the ones that a lot of them strongly agreed on was that listening to phonics songs helped them with understanding phonics a lot better. And then here are my survey questions. I know all my letter sounds in English, so it went from the happy face, the first happy face is strongly agree, to the last super sad face, which is strongly disagree. The second question was, when we are reading in class, I feel very confident. And the third question was, I feel that sounding out words in English is easy. Listening to phonics songs helps me read better. I am a strong English reader. After conducting my quantitative needs assessment, I really wanted to know why my students chose the answers that they chose. So I interviewed 5 of my students, 2 being advanced readers, 1 being proficient, 1 basic, and 1 below basic. As I interviewed my students, I wrote every single little thing that they told me. In this needs assessment, I was able to go more in depth on asking my students why they felt they were good English readers. I used a survey from my qualitative data to guide my interview questions that I conducted. When looking at my data, I noticed that my English language learners are the ones that feel more confident when reading in English. I also found 2 themes, one being whole class reading instruction, and another theme that I found is letter sounding. Many students still struggle with phonemic awareness. When interviewing them about sounds, only one student said that sounding out words is hard, and another said that it was kind of hard because I can just sound them out right and sometimes I can't. After analyzing my findings, I concluded that my students are confident English readers even if they are reading at the below basic reading level for first grade. I found out that sounding out the words or decoding the words is where my students struggle and do not feel as confident. Here's a sample of one of my qualitative needs interview questions. So the first one asks, do you think you are a strong English reader? Can you tell me more about why you think you are a strong English reader or why you do not? And this student, who is currently below basic, said that yes, they do feel they are a strong English reader because they are reading so good. And this student is also an English language learner. So I found out that this student, even though she's below basic and not reading at a first grade level, she feels confident. And here is another example. And as you can see that there's a lot of yes, and on the side I put their quantitative needs responses. So where it says agree, 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 it was from the quantitative survey that I gave them. And this is a student who is basic. I also have another sample, and this student is a high student, so you can see that in their reflection in their answers to the interview, it's more detailed. So when I asked, number 2, do you feel that sounding out words in English is easy? Can you tell me why you think it is easier, why not? And they said, yes, because when you sound out, you understand what you're saying. It's easy because I just sounded out more than once. So after doing my needs assessment, my literature review, and through my research, I encountered numerous studies on how to teach phonics. Many other countries struggle with teaching phonics to their students. The countries that teach phonics are ones that teach English as a second language and look for ways to teach it and for teachers' perspectives on how to teach it. In Turkey, for example, many teachers struggle with teaching their students English. And another study conducted by Maddox and Fang, they provided data on how 2 groups performed after one group was part of a whole language instructional group and the other was a phonics instructional group. And this studied the difference between the whole class and instruction group was not very different. They almost performed about the same. So this proved that there is not a difference between whole class phonics instruction or small group phonics instruction. I am continuing to look for more studies regarding my research and studies that are taking place here in the United States. I feel that learning about studies focused here in the U.S. will help guide my action plan. So in my final action research question is, what impact will direct whole class phonics instruction and guided reading groups phonics instruction have on students' developmental reading level? After conducting my final DRAs, my developmental reading assessments for the year, I realized that many of my students did not meet their proficient level in English. Thinking about those scores and the quantitative and qualitative assessments, I would like to do a mixture of both direct phonics instruction and whole class phonics instruction. My students agreed that watching the phonics videos helped them, and I would like to start my English class with 20 minutes of direct phonics instruction as a whole class and then continue to embed it in our guided and shared reading. So our guided is when I would work with individuals, and our shared would be when we do read alouds or a reading where we're doing think, pair, share, comprehension questions as well. Our students only get 1 hour and 30 minutes of English, and I feel this will be beneficial and will work with the time that we have with them in English. I also want to do guided reading groups with the ones that just do not get the sounds, blends, digraphs, diphthongs, and other phonemic awareness areas that I think they struggle in. I will focus with small groups on what I notice they need support in. While I work with them, I would like to have my other students working on a phonics activity. This would be once a week during that first 20-minute block. I also plan to assess my students with running records to see what words, sounds they're struggling with to make sure I target that during instruction. And here's an example, if you're not familiar with a DRA, what a developmental reading assessment looks like. Students read a book, and as they're reading, I'm taking notes of like a running record of the words that they're getting wrong, or how they're making the sounds, words they're omitting, words that they're adding, and then at the end you ask comprehension questions. So this is I hope you enjoyed my action research project, and this is another just example of DRA and what it looks like.